Mary Shelley's 1818 novel, Frankenstein, has gone on to become a staple of the horror genre, and is considered to be one of the first science fiction stories ever written. Additionally, the novel is sometimes credited as inventing body horror, a genre defined by its exploration of the limits of the human body, often to grotesque extremes. While Mary Shelley's original novel certainly contains some grotesque descriptions of dismembered body parts, the novel's true horror comes from an interrogation of the modern body, its limits, and its role within an increasingly industrialized capitalist society. In this video, I'll be exploring the philosophical implications of the classic British horror novel through the theoretical concept of body as text. The creature has a docile body. Frankenstein was written during the British Romanticism movement, which was considered a reaction to the Age of Enlightenment, British imperialism, and the beginnings of capitalism, which were already beginning to mark exponential changes for human civilization. Wanting to make his own mark on the increasingly complex and scientific world, Victor Frankenstein's creation of a new human body, thanks to his advanced knowledge of modern science, allows him to create not only a new body, but a superior one. I resolved, contrary to my first intention, to make the being of a gigantic stature, that is to say, about 8 feet in height and proportionably large. I had selected his features as beautiful. The creature was created with the intention of being superior to our normal human body, just as the more complex systems of modern industry allowed superior production of goods and services. This relationship between industry and the body is analyzed through the lens of Michel Foucault, who writes about the concept of docile bodies. A body is docile that may be subjected, used, transformed, and improved. He goes on to write about the regimentation of the human bodies in the military and industry. The human body was entering a machinery of power that explores it, breaks it down, and rearranges it. A political anatomy, which was also a mechanism of power, was being born. It defined how one may have a hold over others' bodies, not only so they may do what one wishes, but so they may operate as one wishes, with the techniques, the speed, and the efficiency that one determines. In the same way, the creature, being improved and given the gift of life by Victor, is assumed to be born in debt to its creator. Victor possesses leverage and control over the body, even if it is more physically powerful than him. Victor says, "A new species would bless me as its creator and source. Many happy and excellent natures would owe their being to me. No father could claim the gratitude of his child so completely as I should deserve theirs." And sure enough, when Victor later goes on to meet his creation, he is told by the creature himself that, "I am thy creature, and I will be even mild and docile to my natural lord and king, if thou wilt also perform thy part, the which thou owest me." Since the creature's body and vitality can be owed to Frankenstein, he feels indebted to him, despite the fact that Victor actually had placed him in a state of absolute purposelessness. The creature feels no connection to anything, so he hopes that he may find purpose by serving his master. In the same way, we are only able to reap the benefits of an industrialist capitalist society by subjugating our bodies and minds to the whims of those who control the technology and, to invoke Marx, the means of production. We did not create or choose these conditions, but the fact that so much of our way of life and our security is owed to our industrial masters, we feel indebted to them compulsively because we have no other way of conceiving our identities or realities outside of what has been given to us. However, Foucault goes on to discuss the shortcomings of this paradigm under industrial capitalism. It is a body of exercise rather than of speculative physics, a body manipulated by authority rather than imbued with animal spirits, a body of useful training and not of rational mechanics, but one in which, by virtue of that very fact, a number of natural requirements and functional constraints are beginning to emerge. Some of these natural requirements may be considered our innate desire to understand our place in the world, questions that mass industrialization still cannot answer. The creature goes on to say, "What did this mean? Who was I? What was I? Whence did I come? What was my destination?" These questions continually recurred, but I was unable to solve them. The creature's gift of intelligence and emotion prevents him from being able to accept the conditions of his life. His body, though stronger than the average person, will remain constantly subject to the social paradigms of the world around him. Though the creature's body prevents him from being able to achieve any sort of friendship with others, it mirrors the way that the imperatives of an industrialized society prevent us from connecting with one another on an emotional or spiritual level, since our lives are defined largely by our contributions to the industrialized capitalist needs rather than our social and emotional needs. For example, people typically have an easier time forming friendships with those in similar places of social and economic hierarchies. The creature's mate. Feeling alone and isolated from the world as a result of his artificially created body, the creature compulsively desires a female mate to share in his miseries. "No Eve soothed my sorrows, nor shared my thoughts. I was alone. I remembered Adam's supplication to his creator, but where was mine? He had abandoned me, and in the bitterness of my heart I cursed him. Later on, he takes his desire to the next level when he demands that Victor, his original creator, create a new female for him to live with, saying, "I am alone and miserable. Man will not associate with me. The one as deformed and horrible as myself will not deny herself to me. My companion must be of the same species and have the same defects. This being you must create." Considering the creature is not revealed to be particularly attracted to anybody, he decides upon the compulsive heteronormative desire to have a woman. However, he only seeks for her to be created to benefit himself. Thus, he is imparting the same expectations onto her that were given to him. Interestingly enough, in the original story, Victor decides to create the creature's female counterpart in the remote Scottish Highlands, only at the last moment deciding to destroy her. However, in the 1933 Hollywood film Bride of Frankenstein, this is depicted in a way that grants much more agency to, quote, the monster's mate. In the film, she is created for the same purpose, to be a companion to the male creature. However, after she becomes conscious, she rejects him outright, immediately refusing the limited purpose that she is given. And this lends to the final segment of the presentation, the desire to not exist. After the creature concludes that the conditions of its body have robbed him of the ability to either participate in society or find a life mate to share in his condition, he decides to retreat into nothingness. After killing Victor's bride on their wedding day as retribution for destroying his potential female mate, Victor vows to devote his life to the relentless destruction of the creature. The creature then retreats into the tundra of the North Pole, a literal no man's land, blanketed with white snow, for him a blank slate where he may erase his and Victor's existences forever. The creature's desire to no longer exist is comparable to the conflict in the Margaret Atwood novel Surfacing, which revolves around an unnamed female narrator who, after growing weary of the ways her and other women's bodies are subjected to the expectations of the male gaze, decides to abandon all social expectations of her body by retreating into the natural world, abandoning her friends and family to live in the wilderness. Rossella de Rosa writes about Surfacing that the unnamed protagonist believes that disappearing remains the only possible solution to regain freedom and stability, both of which she has been deprived of for a long time. In the same way, the creature wishes to be free from the world of people that have mistreated him because of his body. De Rosa goes on to write, Surfacing can be considered a crucial experience of becoming other, where the subject abandons her initial state of alienation and oppression and acquires a new perception of herself and the world she inhabits. Though the novel does not contain as much overt feminist subtext, at least not as much as a novel like Surfacing, it does mirror some critical elements of feminism. After all, while it is Frankenstein's goal to resist the natural condition of death, he also subverts one of the most fundamental biological realities, maternal birth. The creature consistently finds itself at odds with its masculine attributes. He's born with extraordinary height and strength, yet he finds himself only able to use this to wreak destruction onto other people rather than be able to create emotional connections with them. He is confined to the masculine, therefore he desires something vaguely feminine, an existence outside the bounds of the masculine world that he has been confined to. Conclusion: who is the real Victor? Victor Frankenstein's first name may be considered quite ironic, since his name suggests success. Indeed, he is successful in fulfilling his ambition to imbue dead matter with life, yet he is rendered constantly miserable for it. Much like Victor's life, our world has been full of astounding achievements thanks to industrialization, yet the romanticist might have argued that something else has been lost. Victor himself could be viewed as a product of his time, the Enlightenment, whereby man had begun to no longer see himself as subject of nature and God, where he could define and manipulate the natural world according to his whims. The creature's unnatural body, formed by the desires of a man wishing to assert dominance over nature, represents the inherent shortcomings of industrialization's supposedly rational attempts to mold the world according to the whims of man. The creature's unnatural condition makes him feel out of place in the world, so he retreats into the void, a place that, in its blankness and vastness, may house his sense of purposelessness. Though Victor wished that he could conquer nature, he and his creation must ultimately face the futility of trying to conquer the unconquerable. We are all subject to the natural world, and we may either be humbled by that fact or perish in arrogance.